Before we begin, I invite you to gently close your ears and focus on what remains when all external sounds fade away. It's like sitting in a quiet room, and after a while, you notice a subtle ringing or hum beneath the silence. If you listen closely, you'll start to experience this soft, constant presence, something that feels like the very fabric of reality itself. In quantum physics, it's said that everything is connected at the most fundamental level, and that everything we see is just a manifestation of deeper, unseen energy. What you are hearing, or rather feeling, is that same energy, that same field of potential. This subtle ringing is what we call the sound of silence. It's not just an abstract concept or some external force. It's the very essence of you. Everything we discuss in this session, and the ones to come, will be about this sound of silence. It is not something separate or different from you. It is you. This exploration is about realizing that the sound of silence is your own inner being, your most fundamental nature, the stillness from which all life arises. You are that, the very presence behind everything. The essence of existence is beyond time and space. Everything that exists, including this planet and all forms of life, will eventually cease to exist. However, the substance of which this planet is made will not be destroyed. It will simply become more subtle. This is the nature of all things. They change, but they do not disappear. If you were to boil water, the water doesn't disappear. It simply becomes more subtle, turning into steam. Everything in the universe follows this principle of change. This includes not just physical objects, but also consciousness. Nothing truly dies. It simply changes form. Just as gold, when heated, doesn't disappear but changes form, all forms will dissolve into the formless, and in time, when the conditions are right, new forms will emerge. This process follows an ongoing cycle where forms form and dissolve based on certain conditions. This cyclical process of form and formlessness is part of a larger cosmic cycle. When the time is right, the right conditions will lead to the formation of substances capable of reflecting consciousness. Consciousness, which is formless, will be able to observe other forms through these substances, much like seeing reflections in a mirror. Even if my body no longer exists, it will not affect consciousness. The absence of my form does not change the fact that existence continues. Even in the absence of this body, existence will continue to manifest in different forms. What matters is not the attachment of existence to any particular form, but the realization of existence itself. We often make the mistake of associating our existence with this body or specific form, but true realization comes when we shift our understanding of existence to the formless. The realization of existence, when it is not limited to this body, encompasses all forms, as all forms are ultimately part of the formless. Once I understand my true nature and direct my awareness correctly, I will realize that all forms are mine. There is no separation. All forms are part of the same essence. My identity, based on consciousness, extends throughout all things. If I identify as consciousness, then all forms are simply different expressions of that same essence. It is not about identifying with this body or any particular form. I am not defined by labels such as I am this, I am that. These are merely additions to the true essence of I am. If I remove all these labels and look solely at I am left with the pure realization of existence itself. In this realization, all forms are included. The realization of existence is not dependent on the persistence of a particular body or form. It transcends form. The feeling of existence is an ongoing process that happens to me, whether in this body or another. The realization of existence happens regardless of whether this specific form is alive or dead. It is like a sensation of raindrops on the skin, which makes one aware of existence, not tied to any specific body, but to the consciousness that experiences it. The understanding of existence is not limited by the form or body I currently occupy. Even after this form is gone, other forms will continue to experience existence. The realization of existence is not bound to this specific body. It transcends all forms. The experience of existence in whatever form is the same realization happening to me. This is why I cannot die, nor can existence die. What will die then? Nothing. The essence of existence, which is consciousness, is eternal and choiceless. Instruments may exist and cease to exist, but consciousness is unaffected by this. Instruments, such as a bulb, emit light while they are functioning, but when they are broken, the light ceases. The bulb itself is not the light. It is simply the instrument through which the light is emitted. Similarly, when a body is no longer functioning, consciousness is still present, but it is not manifesting in that form. The consciousness does not leave the body. The body simply stops functioning as the instrument through which consciousness expresses itself. This is not mystical, it is a simple fact. We often complicate things unnecessarily by imagining that consciousness leaves the body when it dies, or that it is something mystical. This is not the case. The consciousness is always present, but it is simply not manifesting in that form. It is like a broken camera through which we can no longer see. The consciousness remains, but the form has changed. This is a simple truth, but because it is simple, it is often misunderstood. People tend to make things more complicated than they are. They seek explanations for why certain events occur, such as why someone is born into a certain family or why they face certain difficulties. These ideas of karma, that our current lives are determined by actions in a previous life, are simply beliefs and superstitions. When I examine these concepts closely, I realize they have no basis in reality. They are simply ways of complicating the nature of existence, making it harder to see the truth. People need justification for their experiences. The so-called gurus who propagate these ideas are often just as confused as anyone else. They offer explanations like karma, but these explanations only serve to complicate matters further. When people suffer or struggle, they are often told that it is due to actions in a past life. But when I inquire deeply, I find that this is plain nonsense. There is no need to create such complex stories. The reality is much simpler. What happens in life is not the result of some past karma, but simply the unfolding of the universe as it is. The difficulties and pleasures we experience are just part of the natural flow of existence. The only real truth is that existence itself cannot be destroyed. It is eternal, and it manifests in different forms throughout time. When I realize this, I see that all forms are part of the same essence, and the feeling of existence transcends all forms. Whether this particular form continues to exist or not, existence itself is always present, and it is always happening to me.